It's Monday morning, and we're back at the tavern. Just two average guys here, Jack and Dennis, giving you our take on the current state of affairs and in politics. Yesterday was Independence Day, and Jack and I hope everyone had a great, amazing day celebrating our independence with family and friends. We hope you enjoyed all the fireworks in your cities and towns, wherever you're from, because in Myrtle Beach, we sure had fun. So today, we're going to be talking about the good old US of A, which turned 245 years old. If you think about it, we're still a young country, but we've had our fair share of problems over the years. But overall, we believe there's no better place to be in the world. So I'm going to turn it over to Jack for his opening thoughts.
Opening thoughts. We're going to talk about the 4th of July today. Happy 4th of July, everybody. History tends to say there was the top 8 founding fathers, which was George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and Samuel Adams. They were cousins. Samuel Adams ended up getting into Congress and then stayed a governor in Massachusetts. Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and John Jay, who was the least celebrated. He's pretty popular in New York because a lot of things are named after him. 4th of July is also known as Independence Day. And I think we should go back and return to calling it Independence Day so we remember what we're celebrating, because there seems to be a lot of forgetting. We remember what we're celebrating and the amazing feat accomplished by our founding fathers and their sacrifices. The first little curveball to the 4th of July is it really wasn't the 4th of July. It was the 2nd of July is when the Continental Congress voted in favor of independence. But the Declaration of Independence wasn't written yet. So that was written and signed on July 4th, which became the federal holiday. I got 2 reports on it. It turned into a federal holiday in 1941 and 1938. I don't know which one's right. John Adams, being John Adams, and loving debate, felt that it should always have been celebrated on July 2nd, and if you invited him to a party on July 4th, he wouldn't attend, because it wasn't Independence Day. July 2nd was. So apparently, he was the lone guy. So on June 7th, Virginia delegate Richard Henry Lee introduced a motion calling for the colony's independence. Congress postponed that vote on Lee's resolution, but they appointed a 5-man committee to draft a formal statement justifying the break with Great Britain. And it consisted of Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson was the writer, and John Adams was predominantly the editor, Roger Sherman from Connecticut, Benjamin Franklin, and Robert R. Livingston from New York. Nobody ever says anything about Robert R. Livingston. I guess that's the only thing he did. So that's how the idea started to get mulled around in our Continental Congress.
So I've got a question for you. We celebrate our independence because back in the 1770s, specifically 1776, when we celebrated our first Independence Day, we were celebrating getting away from the British government, who had a firm grasp on us and how we lived our lives. So we got away from that because our leaders at that time thought we could be better. And our government seems to be putting a thumb on the American people today, trying to do the same thing that they did back then. So my question to you is, the way things are in society today with our younger generation, not really knowing about the history or not really caring about the history of this great nation, do you think our politicians in the long run will win and we'll end up being a socialist country?
Well, I think that depends on the next 2 elections. If we can get, here's where we're at right now. Congress, the so-called Republicans, went with the Democrats to do an investigation on January 6th. And they sided with the Democrats in the representative. And they only get 5. It's going to be a 13-person panel. They only get 5 choices. And Nancy Pelosi gets to veto any of those that they put in. So Sheeny and probably someone like Tom Rice and these guys that voted against Trump for the impeachment are going to be part of that board. So it's a horse and pony show. And again, the Republicans folded. And it's almost like the Democrats and the Republicans are one party. They go on TV and they say all this stuff, and then when it's time to vote, they cave. Manchin, he's going to cave. He caved. He voted in the Senate. So in this midterm, if we don't get true constitutionalists in our government, the probability is we're going to go down the wrong way. And if they pass that Voters Act, NR1, which, they're trying real hard to get through, we'll never have a fair election again. It's going to be run by the federal government. We're going to be funding their campaigns through tax dollar. And that's a socialist society.
Yeah, so if we don't stand up and stand united, they will win. We can't let that happen.
Yeah, if we want to do this peacefully and diplomatically and through statesmanship and debate, something has to be done in the next 2 elections.
I agree with you.
And when that happens, the constitutionalists of this country have to change the education system. These kids they're not being taught, they're being indoctrinated. And that is incredibly, incredibly important to understand. They are not teaching our children in school. They're indoctrinating. These kids in grade school, their life is supposed to be uncomplicated.
Yeah.
And easy. And they're not letting them even understand the difference between a male and a female at that age. How to be proud of their family heritage. If you're a young white kid in that school, you're being taught that you're no good. And if you're a young black student, you're being taught you can't do anything because you don't know better.
Yeah. So it wasn't too long ago where we were all proud of America. The Union, everyone was together. From the average person to musicians. Johnny Cash wrote a song in 1974 called Raggedy Old Flag. I'm not going to play the whole song or read it verbatim, but I suggest you all go back and listen to it. And it reminds me of what's going on in America right now. And one part stood out to me. It says, your old flag pole is leaned a little bit, and that's a raggedy old flag you got hanging on it. He said, have a seat, and I sat down. Is this the first time you've been to our little town? I said, I think it is. He said, I don't like to brag, but we're kind of proud of that raggedy old flag. And it goes on to mention all the battles. That flag was flown from George Washington crossing the Delaware. And still today, it's flying high in every flagpole in every city. Just drive down the street, and you'll see hundreds and hundreds of flags. People that are proud to be an American. I realize we're being tested today. But what we've been tested ever since our first day of independence, And the final verse is, that song is, so we raise her up every morning and take her down every night. We don't let her touch the ground, and we fold her upright. On the second thought, I do like to brag, because I'm mighty proud of that raggedy old flag. I know Jack and I, we're damn proud of that flag. Even though there are a lot of people who don't like the flag right now and don't even like our country, and I think I'm speaking for Jack when I say this, like I said, we're pretty damn proud of this flag. When I served in Iraq, the best thing I seen when going back from a my base on a day's mission was seeing our flag flying high over our base because I knew I would be safe. So be proud of that Raggedy flag because every American has fought for our independence, is proud to be one, and we're sure most of us are too. Jack?
Yeah, amen to that. Amen to that. I mean, it's important for us to remember our history and where we came from. And it's important for us to worry about our future and where we're going. Because our past and our future are going in two different directions. I wrote a little something in here that I was going to read later, but, we should be really celebrating this day because, our founding fathers, could you imagine living in a time of revolution from the premier number one world power and introducing the world to a whole new government way that nobody had seen before? A type of government that allowed freedoms, a document written to keep the government out of your lives, giving the people certain inalienable rights. This is what these guys did in our founding days. They invented a government that was the envy of the world. The envy of the world. Everybody was jealous of our government. Everybody wanted to be a part of our government. The Statue of Liberty was built and given to us from France for immigrants trying to get all over the world to our form of government. They weren't coming to our country because it was the United States. They were coming to our country because it was a republic and there was dreams to be found there. And they're taking those dreams away. Our children don't have those same dreams and abilities and told someday you could be president. You could be whatever you want. They don't want you to be whatever you want. They want you to be what they want you to be.
That's right. I'm sure most of us have seen in the news recently about the United States shot put athlete Gwen Berry.
Yeah.
She turned her back and would not respect our national anthem. She's there to represent the United States of America.
She's not even wearing a uniform.
Right. So if you don't want to be an American, leave our country. We don't need you. Seeing this got me really thinking about who wrote our national anthem and why he wrote it. I mean, it's called The Star Spangled Banner. It's written by Francis Scott Key. It was in September 1814 at the Battle of Fort McHenry. He was actually a prisoner on a British ship.
This was the Second War with Britain.
Yep, the Second War. It was in Baltimore Harbor. Key was inspired by a large U.S. flag, 15 stripes, 15 stars, flying triumphantly over the fort during the U.S. victory. There are some people out there that believe the song is racist. And go and read the lyrics for yourself, because I've read it over and over, and I can't see anywhere where there's racist comments or anything racist about it.
But I think Dr. Seuss is racist too.
Yeah, true. It's fighting for our country, and that flag was standing after the fight was over, and it was a pretty rough fight.
Yeah.
It was recognized for official use by the United States Navy in 1989, and President Woodrow Wilson in 1916 made it the national anthem by a congressional resolution in March 1931. That's when it was originally called. It was originally called the Defense at Fort McHenry.
That's unusual with Woodrow Wilson. He was the first progressive president we had.
Mm-hmm. When this song is played, you should stand up, remove your headgear, place your hand over your heart, and be quiet. The Star Spangled Banner was not written for white people. It was written for all people. It was written for the human race. Until recently, it was widely accepted to be played before all sporting events. That tradition should continue because it shows that we are united. Again, if you don't like the United States, get the hell out. We don't need you. Males, females, black, white, Asian, they have fought for that flag. They have fought to keep people safe, to give them their independence. So again, people like Gwen Berry, get the hell out. We don't freaking need you. Respect the flag. Other people are dying to come here. Get that? Other people are dying to come here. Yes, we have our issues, but that doesn't give anyone the right to burn our flags down or turn their backs away, especially when you're representing the United States of America?
Well, personally, I got to tell you the truth. I was always on the side of Sean Hannity with these boycotting. I mean, if you didn't like somebody's view, then you didn't use their product and blah, 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 whatever. But this indoctrination, this wokeness, this anti-American preaching, because that's what it is. They are preaching to everybody not to respect where you live, not to respect your history. And I got to tell you the truth. I can't watch TV. I cannot go to the movies. I laugh when I see an award show coming up on TV because it's just, again, they're going to degradate this country, flag, the white male, first responders, the military. Anything that is wholesome and good in this country, they are going to tear down. These athletes are getting paid to be athletes, and they're getting paid way, way too much money. Major League Baseball moves the All-Star game because of a law passed in a state, and they cow down to this woke policy, this new form of preaching against this country to another state, Colorado, that has worse voting laws than this state had passed in Georgia.
You know, when we talk about boycotting and Sean Hannity, I agree with that. I mean, like, I won't buy Coke products.
I'm not buying Coke products. I'm not, I tell you, I don't watch sports. I haven't watched football. Nike is out of my house. You can't have the Betsy Ross flag on a sneaker because somebody like Kaepernick says that's a race.
Right.
That's right. The original founding flag is a racist symbol, and Nike right away takes it off. LeBron James sides with China over a general manager in the NBA. The NBA is making you millions and millions of dollars. You're making hundreds of millions of dollars playing a kid's game. Your political values mean nothing to me. You get to practice a kid's game that kids will do all day long in the summer for free to get out of the house. And you're gonna tell me that you're gonna side with China over than the company that's paying you these hundreds of millions of dollars, and then the NBA falls for it too? Again, this killing that happened in Minnesota missed what should have been taught. This George Floyd should have been taught, do as what the first responders say, not to say that he should not have gotten killed. That's 100% wrong. But you don't disrespect your first responders. You don't disrespect this country. Right now, Martin Luther King has died in vain for, if you go through what they want. I mean, you know, he had a dream that his children would be judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. Well, right now, what the United States government is pushing is that the color of your skin makes you incapable of doing anything.
You know, talking about Martin Luther King, did you see his statue? They're saying that's racist.
Well, they said the same one about Lincoln unchaining the slave, that Frederick Douglass helped create.
Yep.
They wanted to take that one down.
Yep. So when you mention the American flag, that flag is known worldwide. There isn't one country out there that doesn't know what the United States flag looks like, because everyone knows it. It represents freedom, dignity, and the true meaning of being American. It's inspired people to write songs, even get-togethers on Independence Day, the barbecue you went to yesterday, or even today, you know, and these fireworks you're watching. And we couldn't not do this podcast if we didn't mention the history of the flag. So I found this on the History of American Flag and the Facts. The earliest use of stripes in flags is what was to become America is from the Sons of Liberty flag, The Sons of Liberty was the original Tea Party members.
That was Samuel Adams' group.
The Continental Congress was meeting in Philadelphia when a somewhat obscure militia colonel from Virginia came forward in his uniform and volunteered to take command of the troops outside of Boston, overlooking Boston Heights. You know who that colonel was? George Washington.
You know who wanted that spot?
Who?
John Adams. He thought he had it. Not John Adams, John Hancock.
When George Washington left Philadelphia, he took 2 flags with him. The Grand Union, or the Continental, as was called, was the first flag under the Continental soldiers fought. It uses the alternating red and white stripe pattern, similar to the Sons of Liberty flag. There were 13 stripes signifying the 13 colonies. However, notice that the Stars and Stripes, that we have the king colors, also known as the Union.
Union Jack.
Yep.
Union Jack.
Union Jack. That flag had a very specific meaning. It meant that we were fighting as 13 united colonies, but under British rule. And remember, we hadn't declared our independence yet.
Right.
The other flag that Washington took with him was known as the Washington's headquarters flag. The whole entire field is blue. There are 13 stars arranged in a pattern known as the 3-2-3-2-3 pattern. 5 rows of alternating stars and stripes. 3 stars, 2 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, 3 stars. However, you notice that there are 6 pointed stars. A slight difference from the 5 pointed star on the current flag. This would be the first use of the star pattern on the American flag, and today you can see a copy of the flag hanging in Washington's headquarters in Valley Forge. A year later, on July 4th, 1776, Congress declared its independence from Britain, which is what we celebrate every day. And from that moment on, we've been fighting for our independence. Yet the Continental Congress did not design a new flag until a new one came out in 1777, when Congress passed the first of 3 major flag acts. The first one was 13 alternating stripes on red and white. We know that Betsy Ross is the one who upholstered the flag. She did it for the Pennsylvania Navy. We don't know who designed the flag. Whoever did, he was brilliant. But she upholstered it. But it really doesn't matter to me who designed it, all right? The only thing that matters to me is that the flag represents America. It represents we, the people. Not we, the white people, but we, the people. The flag...
And remember, now that one of our first podcasts, we explained what we, the people, were. Mm-hmm. It wasn't we, the people of any color or race or religion or even borders. Right. It was we, the people of the world.
You know, the flag doesn't need to be changed. What needs to be changed is the attitudes of a certain segment of society who want to change the flag or even get rid of it. You know, we have to stand united in order to win. Did you hear that? We have to stand united to win. Yeah. Jack?
So, could you imagine George Washington getting the votes to be the leader of the Continental Army? And he goes and the first flag is raised. What those troops must... Okay, so now they're looking at a flag, and they're looking on either side of them, and they have representatives in the trenches with them from all 13 states, colonies. You know, each state, and so now you're all together under one flag, fighting an opposing, oppressive government of tyranny. Then in 1777, I believe it was, that he had read the Declaration of Independence to them, right?
Yep.
So in 1777, he musters everybody together, and he reads the Declaration of Independence. So now you have a flag you're fighting under with 13 other states that are now becoming a United States, and a Declaration of Independence. Now you're fighting for a form of government with your brethren under a leader.
You know, during every war, the early wars, they used to have sergeants called the flag bearers. He used to run up and down the lines with the flag. And if that person got shot and that person got killed, someone else would automatically pick up that flag and start running up and down the line to show them what it represented. But yeah, we can't even get people today
To stand up for it.
It's ridiculous.
You know, and that's where that came from, where you didn't want that flag to touch the ground.
Yep.
These guys gave their life up to keep that flag up, to show this is what we're fighting for. The Declaration of Independence and later the Constitution was so important and so valued, and they're not taught it anymore, that these men were willing to grab that flag, and that was their only armor, and run up and down. And as they went by these other guys, it gave them courage to move forward into a battlefield.
Yep.
Because of a flag and what it represented. And what it represented was a government that was to stay out of your life.
You know, Johnny Cash wasn't the only good artist to have written songs about America or even sang songs about America. And another one that stands out to me is Ray Charles, who sang America the Beautiful. He didn't write it. It was written by a Wesley College English professor named Catherine Lee Bates. But he sang it with passion and believed that America was beautiful. And he was blind.
Yeah.
You know, one part that stands out to me goes, "Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine." We just talked about the people, the sergeants and the corporals and soldiers picking up that flag and running. They put country above themselves. That is why this country is amazing. We have people willing to die for it. And thanks to them and everyone else who has put their life on the line to win our independence, that's the reason we celebrate July 4th as America's birthday. You know, as Americans, we're going to have our problems. We're going to have our issues that come up from time to time. You know, it doesn't mean America sucks. It means we have opinions. And opinions is what makes each of us great. But again, Independence Day is celebrating for all of us, not just one group of us, all of us. We are all free, and that's the way it should be. We shouldn't let other people tell us if we can have a barbecue or even tell us how to live our lives, because we have fought too damn hard for the right to celebrate our birthday, which is the United States of America's birthday.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to that, in our early history, a custom that was founded and is not practiced anymore. But after the 4th of July, after Independence Day, it was natural for regular citizens and politicians together and local politicians to go to the general local gin mill, the pubs, the public houses, and saloons later on.
Kind of like our meet at the tavern.
Right. And what they got to do, they made sure they did, was argue policy and government issues at the taverns. That's what they did after 4th of July. They made soldiers, started out with soldiers because it was in the middle of the Revolutionary War. And we had brand new colonial Congress that were writing papers like the Declaration of Independence and flag laws, and they would argue these things and make them right and get word back to their representatives and then go back and fight the battles that needed to be fought. That's again, in one of our original podcasts, remember, this government that they provided for us allows you to talk about your government every day you want and act on it on certain days, election days.
You know, talked about teaching our kids in classrooms, and these curriculums are being changed to teach our children about critical race theory and God knows what else.
Tearing down both. This critical race theory it tears every race down. Mm-hmm. Every race is bad.
You know, it's teaching kids that they are racist, which they are not. They don't even know what a racist is. We're not a racist country. I mean, we need to teach them the history of the United States, good and bad, to let them know that they are Americans, and that we are the greatest country on the face of the earth. We have people dying to get here from other countries, like as we said earlier, to have a better way of life. We need to give them a lesson, a great history lesson about this United States of America, because we have a great history. Like I said, we've had our problems, Jack, I don't tell people I'm a white American. I'm proud of my race, and you should be too. Everybody out there should be. I tell people, I'm an American.
Yeah.
Skin color doesn't matter. You got to get away from that. You know what? It's because we're all Americans. We all bleed red.
Yes.
We all have a common goal of being a better person, of being the best person we can when we get up every day.
And that's not being taught, though, Dennis.
No.
These kids are being taught to it's a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
When you leave this school, go home and shame. Go home and shame is what they're teaching these kids.
It's crazy. I mean, what 6-year-old knows about racism? If you know about racism at 6 years old, there's something wrong with your family.
Yeah.
But I'm just about out of time.
Well, I got...
So you got anything?
Yeah, I got one thing. To go back with that school, I remember when I was in school, we weren't taught that one race couldn't do math or English, and one could, and one race was going to be a success, and the other one wasn't going to be successful. In my classes, I remember they used to break us up into groups when we were getting ready to do some hard math work or reading and writing. And these groups used to put everybody together. Mm-hmm. So if you had a child that was struggling in that class, they were with another student that wasn't. So if this kid wasn't catching what the teacher was saying, the peer helped them through the project. So these kids, when I was a kid in elementary school, were helping each other get through the course, not knowing that they were doing this. And they become friends, and they go out in the playground together. When you're in elementary school, your biggest contributor to learning is imagination. And could you imagine being a child that's excelling in a class, being put in a group to help with a math project that's going on, and you have 2 of the other kids looking at you for help?
Yep.
What does that inspire in that child? And then when those 2 kids catch up and nobody's showing them how to do this, what does they go home and feel like? They feel pride in themselves and their classmates, not animosity, which is what's being taught today.
Yeah, it's all about teamwork, helping each other out, making us better than we were yesterday. And you have any final thoughts?
So, all I want to do is to say to people, start remembering your independence. The time is to reimagine what this country could be once again. If the government officials, if they can keep their own interest out of their daily work and worry about the people that put them in that office, what could be accomplished? These people in office today are just worrying about keeping their jobs instead of doing their jobs. And that's the problem. If these guys are getting elected into a very powerful position of high money, high influence, high power, and they don't worry about the people that put them there, because if they do their job, they may lose that job, we got the wrong representatives in there.
Yeah, it's we the constituents against them the politicians, because they're all in it together. We always say that knowledge is power, so please educate yourself on the great history of the United States. You'll be surprised at what you'll find out. If you haven't joined our group yet on Facebook, it's the United States Constitutional Group. Check out our website, fedupwithpolitics.com. Please send us an email if you'd like to be actively involved. I know I've been sending my friend Angela and your sister Margaret some questions, and they're coming up with some really good answers.
I've only seen Margaret's. I haven't seen Angel's.
Yeah, they're coming up with some really good ones. Our email address is uscg20211@aol.com. Be part of our program, but we need you to be proud of who we are as Americans. And I'll leave you with one of my favorite songs of all time. It was written in 1984. Lee Greenwood. It's called "Proud to Be an American." When I hear this song, it actually brings chills down my spine. It brings us together as a country, and I'm going to read this part. If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, because the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, or at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right for me. And I'll also add women there too. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, because there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. We will stand with all of you because we're lucky and honored to be living in the United States today. See you next week at the tavern.